Hello, everybody, and the Fandalorian Club is live. We are back, and it is Star Wars galore here on Apocaflix Movies. I gotta say, guys, right at the top, after watching the first episode, I didn't realize how much freaking footage is only from episode 1, which is insane. We have 15 more episodes, and there's only a good chunk left of that intro, but we are here for all of us who may not know. First of all, we are Apocaflix Movies. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live multiple times a week on the channel, but specifically for Star Wars, we have a show called the Fandalorian Club where we review all of the Disney Plus Star Wars content that comes out. When we get movies, I'm sure it'll focus around maybe some spoiler discussion, stuff like that. But for now, it's focused on stuff like Mandalorian, Clone Wars, and now The Bad Batch. The Bad Batch has officially arrived. And we're here breaking it down for 16 weeks, or 15 weeks, because there's 2 this week. For the next 15 weeks, on Fridays at 4 o'clock, you can join us right here on the channel, and we will be reviewing spoiler-heavy discussions of The Bad Batch. But today, because the first one was here, we weren't originally going to do it today, but then we're just like, well, that episode was so good, we got to sit down and talk about it. So we are here. The crew is here. The club is back together. Brian, Jacob, how excited are you guys to be back watching Star Wars, talking Star Wars on a weekly basis?
So excited. So excited. Love talking Star Wars. I don't know about Jacob, but I could talk Star Wars all day.
Yeah, I'm stoked. And it just made sense. It's May the 4th. Like, I know we're, have our regular show later, but we got to talk Star Wars on May the 4th. So it's fitting.
Absolutely. And real quick, before we get going, big shout out to this guy right here, Boomstick. He did all of our graphics for the Fandalorian Club. So much. All the background work, the logos, all the updates as far as logos go. That is a sweet thank you to him, as well as all of our Marvel Rewind stuff. Everything we do for Marvel, that is whole credit to Boomstick. So thanks again, man. Much appreciated. Let's get into this, gentlemen.
Jacob's wallet doesn't appreciate it as much when it goes on T-Public, but
it's worth every penny. It's worth
it
every penny. Let's get into this, because this episode, I don't know about you guys. I didn't realize the episode was going to be an hour. I had no clue, because I stayed away from everything I possibly could going into this premiere. I stayed away from new footage. I stayed away from news articles. The only thing I knew about it was the episode count. And so when I went on to Disney Plus, I saw that it was an hour. I was like, oh my God, what a day.
Did you midnight? Who midnighted?
I 4 a.m. because I was up.
See, I waited till I woke up this morning.
No,
I didn't even know it was out until you texted me today. So
I did it this morning when I woke up. I was like, it's the first episode. I think I'll be okay. There's not going to be too much talk about it, but my God, were we wrong, because the opening of this episode is something else. Now, let's get into this, because we could talk about the opening with the Bad Batch, stuff like that, but I want to start with some of the most hurtful, awful things that we can see on screen, and that is the destruction of the Jedi. Order 66. We saw it recently with the Clone Wars, right? We saw it in different form. Now with the Bad Batch, we're seeing it with yet again another form. And not just that, we saw Caleb Doom. We saw baby Kanan, and his story, which has lit the Star Wars world on fire, because it actually has changed the story from the comic books, the origin of what happened to him during Order 66. But that's for another day. Let's talk about this, guys, because we're obviously big Rebel fans. We're big Kanan people here. The fact that, one, we got to see him on screen in The Bad Batch as a kid, and 2, his story was told. I'm sure we'll never see him again, but we got it, and it was a complete shock, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Jacob, you want to go first?
You're the big Kanan fan. So.
Yeah, I love Kanan. He's my favorite character from Rebels, favorite new character in Rebels, and I had no idea that he was in it. And I don't think anybody knew, right? Like, it wasn't in the trailers or anything. And once we saw it opens and his master, it's focusing on her, I was like, oh my goodness, are we going to see Kanan? And we do. I loved it. I thought it was so cool. It was kind of weird because it was Freddie Prinze Jr. doing the voice, and he sounds the same as he does when he's adult.
He sounds like a 35-year-old man. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of weird with that. But other than that, it was so awesome to see Kanan, and it was heartbreaking, man. Like we hear about this. We only up until like recently we only saw the stuff in or in Revenge of the Sith, right? So it's really crazy to see different perspectives of Order 66. So that was a great way to like reel Star Wars fans in who aren't, attached to the Bad Batch yet, and I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, we got in like because they did the old school Clone Wars thing where they had the recap, right? Which I loved personally.
Yeah,
I loved it.
like
but they animated Revenge of the Sith in that recap leading into this scene. Brian, this was
I noticed that. Yeah, that's
with
crazy.
Grievous and Anakin and Obi-Wan. But Brian, this was pretty surreal seeing baby Kanan back on screen, huh?
Yeah, so I waited till this morning to watch it. Went on Twitter. When I woke up, completely did not remember that this had come out.
Well, there wasn't a lot of chatter on Twitter like early AM. I think a lot of people were respecting like sitting back and letting
it was mostly just like Bad Batch. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so I immediately went like, oh, that's right. Like I need to go watch it. But the one thing I caught that almost probably hyped it a little bit more for me was I just saw like trending Order 66 and I went,
yeah,
oh no. I didn't click on it. I didn't do anything. I just saw it in trending and I just immediately went, no, they did not go into Order 66, and then opens up and you're just like, oh, here we go. Like anytime you see Order 66, you're just like, oh man. Yeah. The first thing I thought when I saw Depa Billaba, I was like, oh sweet. Like I immediately was like, Kanan's going to pop up somewhere. Like the second I saw her. Like you said, I did read the comics and immediately was like, okay, this is different. I mean, not entirely. Like they were both on a planet, got attacked. So like that part remained the same. But yeah, dude, anytime you're going to start your show with Order 66.
Well, and
oh man,
and it's a lot different because we saw Kanan and Depa Billaba in the Clone Wars during a hologram in one of the scenes that was animated for Revenge of the Sith. Now into this, but in a lot of those Order 66 scenes, it happens with Jedi that don't have Padawans.
Yeah,
so this is a lot more just an impact because we're seeing a 10 to 12-year-old kid who is literally like this person is a mother to him, right? They're around each other 24/7, and he is seeing her be decimated, murdered, essentially. Yeah. And like big middle finger to them for putting her scream in the background as he's running away. Like that's just awful, but I understand why. Like it's just rough to hear.
They wanted
it was harsh, and I'm glad they didn't show her. Like actually show her fall to the ground or something, you know?
And you know what's cool about this is that, and it separates eventually, but this is almost taking place the identical same time as what happened to Ahsoka at the end of season 7. It's literally like the same timeline, but going from this location to this location and just seeing it play through. Now we're seeing season 8 of the Clone Wars follow the Bad Batch into post Order 66. And seeing the Empire take over and the kind of stuff that's happening with them. It's very interesting. That happened quickly. And look, a big stuff that we can talk about, and we're going to be scattered a lot. We can't go chronologically. It's very hard to with a big episode like this. Let's talk about Crosshairs. Crosshairs is
hold on. I have a proposition for you, sir. I think I need to see just all three happening at the same time. So let's get the movie, and then
you want me to put together a reel?
Yeah, and then Depa Billaba and Kanan, just all.
Oh my goodness, that's like a master.
I will try. I will attempt it because I like a good challenge. But
you better pay him for
that. Let's talk about Crosshairs, and I don't want to just stick to the beginning. I want to talk about the whole episode with him. Because we only do have about 20 minutes, so because we're jumping on Apocaflix now next, our 100th episode's next. But Crosshair, he turns. And it happened right away. He was the lone ranger of the group that essentially the chip was kind of still intact to a point where Order 66 affected him. The other 4 were like, well, what the hell is Order 66? Which was a funny reaction. But throughout the entire episode, we see him kind of take this change, and it's affecting him more and more through the episode until he gets brought in by Tarkin to enhance his inhibitor chip and make him go full-blown Empire. And I know a lot of people online are talking about, oh, maybe too early of a turn, maybe it worked out too well. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on his kind of arc in the episode, the turn, how it affects everything going forward, and the fact that one of the Bad Batch is officially on the bad side. Jacob, why don't you start?
Yeah, this was one of the most interesting things in the whole episode because I didn't expect to see one of them not a part of the team by the end of it. And that's pretty crazy. And I know we have a new member as well, which is pretty cool. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But man, Crosshair, I remember when we were watching the recent season of Clone Wars, and I think Crosshair was my favorite one of the Bad Batch. I just liked him. And did they show any signs of this in that? I don't recall too much.
No. I mean, he was always like a weird character.
Yeah, he was always
demeanor.
like, yeah, like the coldest one of them all.
Exactly.
Like if one of them were evil, it would be him. But they never really hinted that this was going on. So it's pretty interesting to me. And it was kind of sad because it's like, no, like we want to watch the Bad Batch together, and now they're disbanded right away. But it makes sense. Because that's what more dramatic thing can you do than have one of their own members turn against them. And that's how the season starts. So
absolutely,
I thought that was done very well.
Yeah, we knew this season going in that it was going to be a little darker because it's on the wrong side of everything, right? Like this is like the first time we're really experiencing the dark age, essentially, of Star Wars in between these movies and these stories. Brian, I know we were talking a little bit beforehand. You had said that you wish you would have been connected to the character a little bit more before his turn took place.
I mean, I would have loved to like really fall in love with all of them. But like I can understand, because if you fall in love with them, like I mean, we liked them from their arc in Clone Wars.
Like everyone loves like Wrecker. They love Hunter because they're the popular ones, but Crosshair, right?
Yeah. So like just maybe like can you imagine if we would have gotten like 2 or 3, maybe 4 episodes where we really like them? Granted, we're getting into like I think Star Wars has definitely taken a turn towards we're gonna cut out filler nonsense.
Oh, absolutely.
Which I appreciate because that's what it should be. So I mean, would I have loved to get some extra love for Crosshair? So like the turn would have been a little bit more devastating. Sure. Am I mad about it? No, I don't care. Because I mean, at the end of the day, that's one of their brothers, one of their fellow people. Like it still sucks. And you could see it from the second Order 66 happened. Like you knew it was happening because he immediately kind of started like not wanting to listen to Hunter anymore. And but yeah, like am I complaining about it? No. Would it have been like a lot more emotional had I been with these characters for a while? Yeah, but I'm not willing to sacrifice giving me a couple nonsense episodes just to get that. Like I'd rather not have fillers because Clone Wars did that a lot.
Yeah, and it's in its early days for sure. And in season 7, it's a different story. But I agree. I think I will say I do appreciate that they're taking a different approach as far as like, because all 5 of them they didn't, and as they say in the show, Echo's a reg. So all 4 of them. Echo's just mutated he's a man-made mutant essentially is what he is. The 4 of them, they're not all going to mutate the same. So meaning, and they talk about in the show, Crosshair, he mutated the slowest, which is why his chip worked.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it was the fact that maybe he was defected the latest out of the bunch, or something went wrong with his mutation. I don't know. But because of that reason, whatever it is, his chip works compared to the rest of them. And then later on in the episode, it gets amplified to where he's full-blown stormtrooper, elite trooper, coming after his former friends, his former commander, his former crew. And it creates a lot of interesting storylines going forward. Essentially what I'm seeing set up now, at least for the next number of episodes, because there are 16. I don't know if it'll take place for the next 16. I see it being a Bad Batch on the run, Crosshair hunting them down situation, which is incredibly interesting because he is essentially, from what we're seeing now, he's essentially the first elite stormtrooper ever created, right? They just turned all these clones into stormtroopers. A human, excuse me. Yeah, you're right. But he is, from what I see him hunting down his former crew, and that creates a lot of interesting stories going forward with how the Bad Batch and Hunter and Echo and Tech and Wrecker handle this, because they're going to be living in a world where all of these people are being hunted down. The Empire is trying to take over. They're going to be forced to face him at some point, and how does that go? How does that end up is going to be extremely
And he's the last one you want looking for you, you know?
Exactly.
It's like
he can shoot from 200 miles away.
Yeah, so he's basically just an assassin. He's like the dead shot of Star Wars, and you don't want him coming after you. And you can tell they fear him too. I'm not just because, you know, I'm sure they could kill him if they wanted to, but they don't want to kill him. So they have to run away from him, fight him without killing him. So it's going to be really tough for them.
Let me ask you, who do you think is going to be the overarching villain in this whole thing?
Tarkin.
I do too.
Yeah,
I think
it seems like it.
And I love that we're getting an inside look at him.
Yep.
I also love getting an inside look at, because now we have an official answer as to why clones aren't in the Empire. They answered that question right away, right? They stopped making them. They want to pay for what they're getting, and what we come to find out is they're paying for very crap stormtroopers. But we got an answer. Like, they're filling all of the, and that's what the point of this show is, and a lot of stuff is it's a bridger. Yeah, exactly. It's filling a lot of gaps that we've had questions about for so long, right? Like, we're going to be seeing the transition from Republic to Empire. We're going to be seeing transition from Tarkin being like this higher up in the Republic to being the guy in the Empire, from a perspective of an elite group of troopers who were once coveted Republic fighters. And we come to find out that there's a lot of Republic people who are on the run. We got the Saw Gerrera stuff, which is very interesting, right? A mixed bag, kind of like, in a way, an origin story to his Rogue One character. There's so many possibilities on where it can go. But yeah, I agree. I think Tarkin is probably the villain, and I want it that way because he's going to be a Krennic-esque character where he's going to have a squad of troopers around him that he's going to send missions on.
Exactly.
And it's going to be a Bad Batch versus trooper situation, and that's going to create some very, very interesting and fun things down the road.
Yeah, I love that we're getting more of his story because he's arguably the third most important villain in that original trilogy. Like, I mean,
the dude had control over Vader.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a heavy argument that he is the main villain in the first Star Wars movie. Yeah. Like, bar none. Like,
that's fair, yeah, because Vader's kind of the muscle. And
Vader was absolutely working for him, 100%.
Yeah, and so he only got this one movie, yet he's synonymous with fans no matter what. And so the more we get to jump into that and get his story, I'm all for it because his character's awesome. This old, smart, experienced character that is going to cause a lot of trouble, I think, moving forward. And I mean, we know he's not going to die in this, so I'm curious to see where this goes. I'm excited. Yeah.
And I love that because we only got Tarkin in one movie. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess two, technically.
We can say one.
You know what I mean. Yeah.
We can say one.
You mean technically three?
Technically three.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I was going to say Revenge of the Sith. This is like right where we see Vader and Tarkin together at the end of Revenge of the Sith. This is that Tarkin, so it's cool.
Exactly. And shout out to Steven Stanton for voicing in. What a beautiful voice for Tarkin that he does for this show.
Mhm.
They nail
Incredible.
Tarkin every time they do it.
Exactly.
Every time.
And
Even the fake one from Rogue One, like nailed it.
Absolutely. Real quick, I do want to bring this up. Roberto, if you have not watched Clone Wars, man, watch Clone Wars. I promise you the first couple seasons are a little rough, a little slow, but it ends up just as good as Bad Batch. It's on par. Season 7 is the best animation stuff that you may see. I highly recommend it if you got the time. But
I will say to his comment, it is kind of cool that you don't really need to know other stuff to really get into this so far. So it's
you could really watch Revenge of the Sith and then this.
Well, you could watch just season 7 if you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
That's true too.
And that's something that's very unique in a way. Like if you've seen the prequels, you can pretty much go straight into it.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
actually, Roberto, I would love to throw you some homework. Watch season 7 of the Clone Wars when you got time. Come back to us. I would love to hear your thoughts. Start there, see how you like it, and then let us know. I'd love to see your thoughts if you ever have the time to do so. All right, before we get to Omega, I want to talk about all this Camino stuff because this Camino stuff is very interesting. It's really cool getting a behind-the-scenes look at the Kaminoans, how they're operating, how they're dealing now that they're essentially being backstabbed, being chopped off the block. They're no longer supporting this army that is taking over the galaxy. I don't think it's the last time we've seen them. Is everybody on that train?
Yeah.
Oh, no way. And you're talking about the Camino. What do they call it? The Kaminoans? Or whatever?
Kaminoans.
Yeah. And they're important. I mean, they held the door open when they were leaving too. Yeah. The leader or whoever that was. So they're like on the good side, I guess you can say.
Well, yeah, because they just got screwed like royally by.
I like how they treat it like a business. Tarkin's like, that's too expensive for us. Like we're going a cheaper route.
Yeah. So I mean, and it immediately shows you how much the Empire they're a-holes. Like they have themselves as their best interest.
They're throwing up the biggest middle finger to everybody.
Yeah. Like there's no more blatant way to be like, we used you. We got what we needed. We're good. We're out. And I mean, Tarkin literally could have killed the Bad Batch. He tried to in the live fire drill,
which was incredible, by the way.
Yeah,
that was cool.
I mean, yeah, the Kaminoans. I agree. I think we all agree that this is not the last we'll see of them.
Well, and what are all these clones like? Where do they go? What happens to them?
They're gonna get killed.
Do you think they're going to get killed, or do you think that like there's going to essentially be like a firing down on them, or do you think there's going to be some kind of clone uprising?
I think they're going to get killed. In fact, I thought it was going to get really dark for a second when they showed the baby in the tube. I thought they were going to like shut it off.
Oh, Jesus!
And I was just like,
the clones.
Oh my God.
Have accelerated aging. Do they stop when they get adult age though? I don't know if
that's
been
so they're accelerated in the tubes and then
they slow and then they slow down so they can last as long as they can.
Yeah.
I have an interesting question for you guys.
Maybe they age out. I was gonna say maybe they just age out of the Empire. Because by the time we get to A New Hope, 30 years later, those guys aren't
20 years.
I mean, they might honestly like just get left on the planets that they were on.
What I have an interesting and this wouldn't happen for years, obviously, but what if the clones and Camino becomes an issue so much that it becomes one of the Death Star's first testing sites?
Because we don't hear or see Camino anytime in canon.
What if the Empire completely wipes it off the face of the galaxy?
Well, the only argument to that, which I think that would be a brilliant idea,
that would be insane,
would be the fact that Rogue One, he literally had a part where he's like, all right, let's test this weapon for the first time. And they tested it on Jeddah. Because Tarkin was fair. Because Tarkin was generally surprised it worked.
Yeah. And that's fair. But okay, so maybe there's some other kind of massacre that happens on Kamino, and not just them, but also the Kaminoans themselves get destroyed.
I mean, sink the city.
Yeah, if you could do that, that's very possible as well. But that might allow
I think
people
that
to get
makes
out.
sense. Because there's no way the clones are just chilling on Kamino, not doing anything. They're soldiers, you know?
Exactly. They're born to fight. They're
I
bred
mean,
to fight.
that would also be kind of interesting to just see them get stuck and literally it's a clone planet.
Yeah, that'd be
I
interesting.
mean, it's possible. It's very. I mean, we're gonna find out. I have a feeling we'll definitely find out.
If we're placing bets right now, what are we thinking? I think they're gonna get massacred, like Order 67 style. Like,
but why though?
Order
I mean,
Order
just 'cause?
67.
yeah, Order 69. Why? Because they don't want ties to the past. They don't. The Empire just wipes them out.
Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen.
Because
I can see that.
My only thought process is because it makes them more rare when they pop up into things in further down the line.
Mm-hmm.
If there's just tons of them around, people would be more knowledgeable about the past. Like, hey, look, there's like 7 of the same person over there. Like they would be like, oh, that's clones.
And they want to remove any like sense that the Jedi existed, right? Because by the time we get to A New Hope era, like people are like, are these the Jedi real or whatever? So it makes sense that they would get rid of the clones too, because they know they executed the order, so they would know all about it. They don't want people to know that happened. So I think you guys are right. I think they get wiped out somehow, most of them.
Star Drew, if I have an echo, I'll put my headphones in.
All right, let's shift from Kamino and the Kaminoans to Omega. Omega is a big part of this show going forward. We meet her in this episode, and then at the end of the episode, she goes with the Bad Batch, and she becomes the 5th member of the Bad Batch. And we come to find out that she is like the 4 originals, and she's a mutation of a clone, the first female clone that we've seen before.
I was going to ask you guys, is this the first time we've seen a female clone?
It is the first female clone we've ever seen. And it seems like the Kaminoans, because of that reason, we're giving her a little bit of different treatment, which made sense. But
she was a medical assistant.
Yeah. She seems to have some special abilities that could come in handy going forward. What do we think of Omega?
Love her. I think she is going to be, she is essentially a Troop 99 clone, in my opinion. Like, they all were these things that they tried to do in a different type of clone. So like you have Hunter, who's like good at kind of almost everything. You've got Wrecker, who's this ginormous wrecking ball, so on and so forth through this line. That Omega was the last one where they're like, let's try to make a female one and see if we can do this. And I have a feeling that medical assistant line is going to play out more. Maybe that's what she was going to be trained for. Maybe they wanted female medic clones for all we know.
And they don't have a medic in the Bad Batch, so it's
that's
possible.
The first thing I thought of is like now they have a medic on the crew.
It's very possible
in a way. And also, did they say what her ability is? Isn't it like projecting probabilities and stuff?
I mean, it very well could be, but I don't think
she tells Crosshair, like, I know what you're going to do. Don't do it or something. That's what I thought.
Oh, maybe she gets like senses, maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, and that's
Hunter says something earlier on about her, and
so actually to that point, Jacob, I was watching something earlier, a recap on this, and someone had brought up that line, and they said, "Is that a nod to her having Force abilities?"
Oh wow!
Because and here's the crazy idea, and this person went way deep. They went way deep, and I don't believe this at all.
I love the people that just theorize.
They said, they go, if you look at Omega's hair, it's similar to what Palpatine had when he had hair. Could she be the first attempt of him cloning himself?
I think
maybe
it's too soon.
That's what I thought too, but I thought to myself, wow, this person went way crazy off the deep end, but wow, you have me thinking.
Yeah, I mean, she kind of looks like the regular clones in a way, in the face. So I don't know. I always assumed that she was one of them, but it's possible because it all ties in. It's not like there's nothing to back that, you know.
I would kind of hate that actually.
So
No, I
I
don't
would
want
hate
her
it
to
as
be
well.
force
I would
sensitive.
hate it.
I don't want
I
her
would.
to be
I
force
want her to be
sensitive
another
or-
mutant.
Yeah,
I want her to be another
I agree.
mutated clone.
Well, no, I'm talking about her being Palpatine. Like
no, I know.
anything-
Oh,
yeah. I would hate that. I don't even want her to be force sensitive personally. Actually, I'm 50-50 on that because that would be kind of
interesting 'cause how would a
interesting.
clone.
Maybe
get it from-
a Finn situation where she's force sensitive but doesn't use it like a Jedi. Where she has like a Maz Kanata, where she has the ability, but she doesn't use it like
that
a
would
Jedi.
make sense. I mean, if
Yeah.
we see if she's able to like sense things or like sense the future, that would make sense.
Yeah, I don't know if I would probably be okay with, because it'd be kind of interesting, like how did this one clone get force sensitivity? Like that would be kind of interesting.
Exactly.
I wouldn't mind that. I would hate any relationship to Palpatine. That would
I agree.
annoy me.
I agree. I just wanted to
But
bring it up because it was interesting when I listened to it. So
No, it's an interesting thought, but I'm just saying, like for me, I'm good. I don't mind the
I
force sensitivity, but we're good with Palpatine.
I agree. All right, to wrap this up, because we do only have about 10 minutes till we start Apocaflix now. We can take as much time as we need with this one. But so the episode ends, right, after some chaos, after Tarkin sending 99 on a mission, it being a trap, and they were sent to kill Saw Gerrera and some insurgents, excuse me. We get a really cool Saw Gerrera scene with some Republic people, some soldiers, and they come back to Camino, and they're trying to rescue Omega. This is where Crosshair gets affected by the inhibitor chip. They get trapped. They get out. A little battle between the end, and then they're heading off to the galaxy. They got their ship, and they're going to find someone. What do we think about the ending of this episode, gentlemen? The kind of final moments. Where do we think it's headed? Are we loving it? Are we liking it? Or do we have questions? Jacob, I'll let you start as we wrap up today's episode.
Well, overall, I wasn't that excited for this show, and I really liked this episode. Like, this episode got me all in. Now I can't wait till the next episode. This episode felt like a mini movie to me in a way.
It was an hour. I couldn't believe it.
I think it was more than an hour. Wasn't it like 1:15?
It was 70.
Was it really?
Yeah, so yeah, it was more than an hour. So it felt like
I hope every episode is like that.
I know,
They're
right?
gonna 100% go to about 20
Like
to
25,
30 after that.
yeah.
Oh my god.
But I enjoyed it, and that's why the ending felt like some kind of cliffhanger, like we're just ready for the sequel, but we get it right away, which is pretty cool. But I dug it. They created a lot of drama, and now we don't know which way it's gonna go. And now they got a kid with them, so they can't be as reckless as they usually are. And do we know where they're going? They said they're going to J19 or something, and they know something.
Yeah, they're going to. Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's J something.
Yeah, J19, which in canon is around what's the name of the planet? Seleucami?
Oh,
which is where who is?
I don't know.
someone died.
Frog Lady?
Captain Rex.
Oh yeah,
Captain Rex is a Seleucami.
someone.
I was gonna say also that I love how I was worried this was just only gonna be about the Bad Batch. I like how it's kind of like it's the Bad Batch's perspective of the galaxy going forward right after.
We're seeing the end side of Order 66 through their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just
the Galactic Republic in the formation of the Empire.
Exactly, and it's really, really cool. I definitely think we're going to see two characters, or one of two, I should say. The obvious one is Captain Rex. We saw him in the trailer. I have a feeling Rex is actually going to be a bigger part of the show than we first thought. He might become a part of the crew for like a couple episodes, but I had a kind of a curious thought for some Clone Wars fans out there that, and Jacob, if you remember this, Brian, if you remember this, there was an arc in the Clone Wars where a clone went rogue and he started a family with a Twi'lek, and he was on a planet. I have a feeling they might bring him back into the fold a little bit as some protection, who's off the grid. because that's kind of what they want to lay low, right? We might see him. His name is Cut. So they might be heading to Cut or Rex, in my opinion, which Rex being the more popular vote, which makes sense. But we could be seeing some cool Clone Wars callbacks here in the next couple episodes.
When you said Seleucami, I was like, there's a Jedi that died on that. And I was right. It's where Stas Ali dies. The one riding the speeders.
Okay.
So somebody they know's over there.
Maybe that is where Rex is, because we saw Rex in a shot where there was Star Destroyers in like a desert, which is where she kind of was. Very interesting. Either way, Rex is coming. I don't know when, but he's coming.
Yeah, at some point for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so excited. I love it. Like Star Wars animation is just like there's nothing that touches it.
And we haven't talked about how good the show looks. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
it's just there's nothing that competes with it that I can think of that's just so on par with it. And I mean, all credit to Dave Filoni because he knows what he's doing. Like clearly, like people were just like, "You want to make an animated show? Here you go." Like, okay,
because he just keep making Star Wars animated shows forever. Just after the Bad Batch ends, do something else.
And I think a lot of it is just like, hey, we want to fill in a couple of these gaps that people want to know answers to. Here's a series that will explain essentially that. So, I mean, like, bear. But yeah, it's brilliant storytelling because we have these enormous gaps in between.
Humongous.
Thank you. I was combining two words.
You thought like you corrected yourself, but
yeah, I don't know. I gave up.
Enormous. That's a new word.
Yep. We have these ginormous gaps in between sequel, prequel, like in between. Why not tell stories from those times? And you know what? Let's answer some questions along the way. And animated is perfect way to go for it because you can just literally create whatever you want. And
we saw what Rebels did for 4 seasons. I mean,
Rebels is arguably my favorite animated show like of all time. It's just it's perfectly done. And Star Wars just keeps throwing amazing animated. Sometimes honestly, I'm not going to lie, I get more excited about the animated stuff than I do live action.
I'll be honest, I do too. And you guys know how I turned you guys on to Star Wars animation. It's like I am so happy that they continue to do it. You know, they have this platform to do live action stuff now, and they're obviously going to push a lot of that, but I'm happy that they're giving these stories like a weird bunch of mutated clones the opportunity to shine. And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like this is more than just a 1 or 2 seasons. I feel like we could see 3, 4, maybe 5 seasons, like a Rebel situation where we get a lot of stories because eventually, like, they're going to move on from the Empire stuff. They're going to end up not being hunted down. Maybe they do some mercenary missions. Maybe they run into someone like Hondo or maybe a Han Solo or a Beckett or something. I don't know. We see them running into Fennec Shand here at some point during the season.
It's just funny because let's be honest. You remember when we first saw this announced, we went, Bad Batch?
Yeah, it was very strange. It was very strange.
We were like, that out of all, like, we were fully like, it needs to be part 2 of Rebels. But, like, they know what they're doing with the animated. Like, that's the one thing. The only slip up to me was Resistance, which, whatever. That clearly wasn't. Neither did I. But it's just, they know what they're doing with the animated.
So the difference is Resistance is literally made for kids.
Yeah.
Bad Batch and Clone Wars is made for Star Wars fans no matter what age you are.
And this show is so adult. After 1 episode, this show is so adult.
It really
is. So adult.
Yeah. Also, I loved the little I mean, I assumed it was, but when they went live fire, that was definitely like early Dark Troopers, right?
Maybe.
It looked like them.
Because
actually, we don't. Well, obviously, we don't know.
In the video games, there was 3 stages of Dark Troopers. The third one being what we saw in Mandalorian. That looked like
it's definitely possible. The way they were almost seemed like they were indestructible in a way. It's definitely possible that
go look at an early video game Dark Trooper. They're pretty similar in look.
They just aren't made out of Beskar.
Yeah, exactly. So, if it is,
and I think the Bad Batch had like training guns during that fight. They didn't have.
They did. They said they had
Bad
stun
Batch
guns.
didn't even have live rounds, so that was like so unfair. Freaking Tarkin, man.
I loved it. I cannot wait. I think this is going to be better than anyone thought.
Oh, it already is to me.
Oh, yeah.
It blew me like my expectations out of the water, to be honest.
Yeah. So I love it. I'm excited. More Star Wars, more animated Star Wars, longer stories. I'm very excited. Very, very excited.
I would have to agree with you. And as I mentioned up top on the show, we're going to be doing this for the next 15 weeks on Fridays, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll be right here on the channel breaking down every single episode of Bad Batch. You might see some shorter episodes because the episodes might get shorter, unfortunately.
Exactly, yeah.
But at some point, you'll see us back-to-back with not just the Fandalorian Club, but also Marvel Rewind because Loki is on its way as well. So, with that said,
this Friday.
You'll see it this Friday. There's another episode that drops on Thursday night, early Friday morning. You'll see us on Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific right here, everybody, for the Fandalorian Club. Myself, Brian, and Jacob breaking down every single episode of Star Wars television. And you can just come join us as we geek out all over this goodness. So, for that, for Jacob, for Brian, we are the Fandalorian Club. Apocaflix Now, episode 100 starts in just a few minutes, everybody. Yes. Come join us. Got a cool episode. May the 4th be with you. Might be in that episode. Who knows? We'll see about that one. But for now, for the whole crew here, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll catch you guys on Friday. Later.